Defense companies buying other companies is certainly nothing new, but bidding wars are rare. So I talked to Defense News Executive Editor Jill Aitoro this week about one that's going on right now. So Jill, now that we have a bidding war for CSRA between two different companies, walk me through how we got here and where we kind of stand with this possible takeover of this company.
Yeah, so basically what happened a number of weeks ago is that General Dynamics put in a bid for CSRA. CSRA is basically spun off from CSC as its government business even longer ago. So they bid for that. It was a very lucrative bid in terms of the total value, and everyone was quite surprised by it, saw it moving along. What we just found out recently is that CACI decided to come in and make its own bid exceeding what General Dynamics had offered. So you might call it a bidding war in this sense. CSRA has remained relatively quiet. Everyone's kind of now sitting back and seeing what will come of the situation in terms of who will win out in this scenario. But General Dynamics has said they're moving forward with approvals.
So could CSRA go, you know what, we want a little more money for ourselves and jump to CACI on this?
They could. And, you know, everyone's throwing away the term of hostile takeover, but from the perspective of CSRA, you know, they are getting a deal, an offer for more money. So whether they are saying as much or not, I have to imagine there's an evaluation going on in that proposal. Now, a lot falls into acquisition in terms of what makes something appealing. So there's much happening behind the scenes, no doubt. But what comes of it, you know, we just don't know. It was very unusual. These are all major players. It's also interesting because General Dynamics, generally we think of in terms of defense. They're, you know, a front player in terms of the defense market. CSRA and CACI are very much leaders in IT services, and so they almost are more parallels in terms of those two companies. So even though the rationale for buying is different from a General Dynamics that I think is looking to expand its portfolio with CSRA in certain areas, whereas CACI, there's some of that, but I think it's also a matter of growth and bolstering their power as an IT service provider to the government.
So on the General Dynamics side, you have a larger company who's bringing on a certain sector to bring it into his business, but with CSCI, it's taking over almost a competitor.
To some degree. Now, General Dynamics has its IT segment, and I think this will bolster that segment, but it also has a lot of defense business that it also relies on. So it's more a matter of kind of balancing its business areas to some degree. CACI, it's just making it more of a giant in that space. And it does almost, CACI, if they were to win out on this, it would position them differently against, for example, Leidos, which of course bought the IT business from Lockheed Martin recently. So it's a lot in terms of size and breadth of IT market and ownership that would be coming from CACI. So it's a little different in terms of the rationale there.
So in your mind, you've looked at the industry, you've had a lot of experience looking at the industry. Normally when a company says, hey, we're going to buy said company, it's off the market, so to speak. Yet in this case, it's not. So is this almost like an unwritten rule being broken here? Or?
It's almost, and that's where everyone throws around the term of hostile. I don't think the rule is being broken. It's almost like an offer is being floated, and it's, you know, hey, we're out here, we're willing to kind of play ball in terms of an acquisition that might be more appealing. And
so with the whole industry, we've seen a lot of companies, mergers, acquisitions. Where does that stand, and is it beneficial for DoD to have these companies merging and acquiring each other?
It's funny because really what we saw for quite a while was a lull in M&A, and it's suddenly gained a little bit of traction over the course of the last couple of years, and so everyone is saying there's a huge consolidation of the market. I wouldn't actually say that's happening. I think it's just back to having a healthy M&A landscape, but we have seen some big ones. You have United Technologies that is buying Rockwell Collins, Northrop is buying Orbital ATK. What's happening generally here is that they're expanding their portfolio, they're enabling themselves to be competitive in new markets. The Defense Department is fine with that. They like a healthy industrial base. Where they get a little nervous is where there's not enough competition and where these acquisitions do create a consolidation in the market where there's just not enough players for fair competition and to make sure that pricing is managed and kept at a reasonable rate. So that's where they step up and say this can no longer happen. I don't think we're there. I don't think the Defense Department thinks they're there, but they evaluate all of these various deals.
And finally, as we close out, there's been a lot of news lately about executive pay. Senator Bernie Sanders has railed against, he's called these contractors semi-government agencies, said that they should be paid, they're being paid far more than a cabinet secretary, for example. What's your reaction to that?
You know, we hear this erupts constantly, you know, as over the years. And the reality is, yes, the majority of these companies' business is from government, but these are publicly traded companies. So what you will hear on the industry side is that they need to compete for talent, not against government agencies, but against comparable public companies of their size. So the reality is that when they're paying a Marilyn Houston at Lockheed Martin $20 million, much of it having to be in stock, by the way, that's competing against the market and ensuring they have the talent they need. It's just a reality in terms of publicly traded companies. It's, you know, you have to go with what the demand is.
And that's just the state of the market. Thanks so much, Jill. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.